All join palms. And repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
Keeping the palms joined. Palms down. All right. Good evening, everybody. Nice to see you all here. Thank you for showing up. I got to spend this afternoon an hour or so at a retirement facility up north a little bit. And one of the questions that came up was how to be okay today with, as they called, as they said, all the problems that are going on in the world. And what it boiled down to through this discussion, and for me, it's always a great opportunity not to go up there to kind of share my thoughts or ideas or whatever I've learned or think I've learned, but really to just kind of facilitate discussion and let them share as well. And so these are people that are definitely at the later stages of their life. Many of them have recently lost loved ones. Health is a definite issue for many of them, and so they're losing people, loved ones, and friends, daily. And so there's a lot of suffering, a lot of pain, a lot of loss. And then on top of that, for them, there's a lot of chaos in the world. And ultimately what it came down to was, it took a little bit of steering, I know none of you do it, but they tended to want to blame everybody else for all the problems in the world. Again, I know none of you would ever do that, but that was kind of their approach initially, was to point fingers and blame others. And what it ultimately came down to was this opportunity to really settle into a deep practice of gratitude. And at any stage of your life, for all of us sitting here right now, everyone here has gone through a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of trauma, a lot of loss. If you ended up at a Buddhist meditation thing on a Tuesday night at 7 o'clock, you've gone through some stuff, right? That's how we end up here. As I always say, if life is perfectly peaceful and happy, you probably don't stumble into a place like this. So we've gone through some stuff. And for me, the practice has always been to come back to settling into a place of gratitude for everything and everyone that you've had and do currently have in your life. And that's really difficult to do because it's not in your face all the time. Meaning everything in your face is about all the problems in your life or life of those around you, problems in the world. But what's not in your face constantly is gratitude. And so I encourage them as, kind of the discussion came up and, really just kicking off tonight with this opportunity for each of you to take some time, as we start the meditation practice, assuming your minds might wander a little bit. As it wanders, let it wander to a few things or people or places or whatever it is in your life that you have gratitude for. Because if we focus on gratitude, we're less likely to be focused on all the miserable things. And not sure about all of you, but many people I know tend to spend most of their day focused on all the miserable things, and very few moments focused on the things that are really wonderful in their lives. And the flip side of, as I shared with them today and I share now, whatever pain and suffering and experiences we've gone through, to be here right now on a Tuesday at 7 o'clock. If you are able to be here on a Tuesday at 7 o'clock, no matter what condition your life is in, if you have the means and resources and ability to be here right now, that means you also probably have a lot of really good things in your life. So sometimes you don't have to work too hard to look for gratitude, but as we settle into a meditation practice, as I'm rambling and you're lost in thought, ignoring everything I'm saying anyways, just allow your mind to wander, hopefully, to some places of gratitude. And then when I say something, completely abandon that and just try to stay focused on the breath. And then when you fail at that after 3 seconds and start wandering again to like laundry and dinner and whatever else you want to go do next, try to go back to gratitude. So if you're going to have your mind wander, which it will, try to have it wander to gratitude. So at least when the meditation is done and none of us have focused on our breath for a period of time, at least we focused on gratitude. So to those joining virtually, welcome. Glad you're here. Thanks for showing up. So we'll start with the meditation practice. A couple things to tell you before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to float away. You're not going to have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice, meaning don't ask yourself, is this working or not working? Are you doing it right or wrong? We're just going to sit. We're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos. And this practice is learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. Posture. Just want to be comfortable. If you are in a cushion, often it helps slide into the front third, pushing the stomach forward. Allows the back to straighten. Same thing if you're in a bench or chair. Just trying to sit up straight. Relax your shoulders, hands are on the knees or lap, whatever's comfortable. If you need to move, simply move. Movement doesn't make you a bad meditator. If you are brand new, please do not expect your mind to shut off. It will not think nothing. It will not go blank. It will continue to race. I'll say things periodically to remind you that you're lost in your thought of gratitude and bring you back to the present moment. Most important, do not expect anything. We're just going to sit and breathe. And starting with the eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding the attention, focus, to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath, expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. As the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it. Release that thought, returning attention, focus to sensation of breath. Breathing in, follow breath in. Breathing out, follow breath out. letting go of expectations, letting go of judgments from the practice, just sitting, breathing. Learning to be comfortable in stillness, in quiet, wanting nothing but to sit and breathe. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle. know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. And no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. Once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And as you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move, most important with the practice of meditation is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. You realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, has nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how you sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It's everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samutpata, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being, no different than any one of us, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. What that means, very simply, for all of us, regardless of where you come from or what you believe in and where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen, and you react. More stuff happens, more reactions. That's it. That's what we get. This practice is simply learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to every other 20-minute period of your day. And so all we're working on is closing the gap where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. With a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. Imagine going a day without being disturbed by someone. Imagine going an hour without being disturbed by someone. Most of you won't even make it home or wherever you're going before you're disturbed. This practice is not easy, not necessarily fun. It's not an escape, as often people think it is. If your life is a crazy, hectic, stressed out mess, meditation doesn't fix that. Meditation helps you become aware of your life that's a crazy, hectic, stressed out mess, so you can actually make changes in your life. This is direct perception into the present moment. Meditation doesn't make life better. It makes you become aware of what's going on. It helps you deal with life as it arises. This practice isn't there to create this perfect little environment and close yourself in and block everybody out. This practice is there to become aware of all the pain, all the suffering, everything, all the joy and all the happiness. Just to observe reality. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. It's just sitting, breathing, learning to be kind to yourself and everybody else you encounter every moment of your life. And that's it. Once we stop trying to change, fix, control, manipulate everything and everyone around us, which is where we spend so much of our time, hoping they do this, hoping they do that, wishing they would do this, wishing they would do that, so much time and effort trying to control others. And we work on changing our mind and our reaction to others, life gets simpler. There's one question came up today, and the individual said, I was talking about people's desire to try to control everything and everyone. And this person said they didn't want to control everyone, just their family. I'll just leave it at that. So I think I'll just pause there. For me, I always just prefer to respond to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything that's on your mind. And for those who are joining virtually, again, welcome. Glad you're here. Feel free to say hello as you are. If you have any questions, you can put them on the chat box. I'll do my best to respond. So we'll open up to questions. Hi.
So you've used the word unbothered a lot that I've listened to. And I'm curious about this idea. So like I have a very chaotic work life. I work in healthcare. It is chaos, like controlled chaos all day. It's loud. There's a lot going on. And I'm totally unbothered. People are trying to hit me, they're screaming at me, like literally zero bother. But somebody pulls in front of me or things like that. Like, how do we not have that transition from, like, how can I be so many hours in that chaos and be so unbothered, and then get in my car and get on the freeway and be like, oh my God, get out of my way.
Yeah.
Like, what am I not getting?
Yeah. Doesn't that suck? I mean, first off, thank you for the work that you do. I could say from an outsider spending time there with some loved ones over the last 5 years, those environments you describe, without getting into too deep, details, just based on your description, it's chaos. It's loud, the beeping, the noise, the yelling, the screaming, and you're in love with your work. You're passionate about what you do. You realize again, I'm assuming, so correct me if I'm wrong, but how long have you been doing it?
A very long time.
Very long time. And you might be tired of it at times, and it beats you down at times, I'm sure. But there's the heart, the compassion, the love that you carry that allows you to do that, because you know at the end of the day, from start to finish, you're making a difference in people's lives. Correct? That is compassion. That is wisdom. Now, when a person cuts you off, so it's like you could do that 12 hours a day, and all of a sudden, like, again, your example, and then you get in your car and you're leaving the parking structure and you're driving out and you get on the freeway and some absolute stranger cuts in front of you and you just want to throw them out the window. Yet you listen to somebody scream and yell at you for 10 hours straight and you had endless compassion for them. Am I close? Yeah. That person that cut you off on the freeway, they are the person screaming at you 10 hours a day. There's no difference. They are suffering. The difference is, in practice, you have created a separation. Buddhism, we look at duality. Diamond Sutra, Heart Sutra talks about the dualistic mind. You've created a separation. Now I get it, it's a job, so you kind of have to do it, but at some point in time, if you didn't love doing it, you wouldn't do it. And so I get that, the money aspect of being paid tends to maybe keep us certain places a little bit longer, but that type of work, it's way more than that. It's much deeper than that, is my guess. But you've created in your mind a construct that says, these people need my love and care and attention, and they don't know any better. And they're just trying to be healthy and stay alive, and everything I'm doing can help them. Again, I'm just making shit up, but that's a general construct, right? The construct that you've created for the person who cut you off is all about you. It's all about you and your way. When you're at work, it's not about you, it's about them. And then you get in the car, and it's almost like you've created this idea. Again, I'm just putting thoughts into your head, so cut me off at any point in time. It's almost like you've created this idea at work that you are the Bodhisattva Path, the practice. It is not about you. You are there to liberate all beings from suffering in any way that you can. And then the moment you leave, you take off that Bodhisattva hat and you become selfish. And you think, well, I just did this 12 hours a day. Get out of my way. This is my road. Didn't you see I was here first? So the practice is to see no difference in the person who's on the freeway to the person in the hospital bed or wherever and you. You're all the same. Suffering, struggling, trying to get through your day. So the constructs begin to fall away, and you see no separation between the freeway person and the hospital person. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
It's not easy to do, but at least now that I've kind of planted that idea in your head, you can think about, okay, well, what would it be like? What does that mean for me when I leave work to kind of take off work hat? But ultimately, what we're working towards is you're not taking off that work hat. You've never put it on. It's just who you are. You can't fake that line of work for that many years without it being a deep part of who you are. You need to allow that part of who you are to live outside of that healthcare facility. That's just who you are. You are a good person. Even when you're screaming and yelling at the person who cut you off. That's a complete stranger that has no idea who you are, and you'll never see them, and they don't care about you. You have to be that good person to them too, because they also are suffering. They might be on their way to visit the person that you just spent 12 hours caring for. So try to see no difference in anybody. My master used to say, when you look at people, just see everybody as a Buddha, or a Buddha to be. Everybody is trying to awaken and end their own suffering. And they all take different paths to do it. And part of that person's path to ending their suffering means they have to cut you off. It's their journey. Yeah. Yeah. What else?
What are your comments on thoughts of guilt? I find myself realizing that I could treat myself better and that I haven't been, including not meditating as often as feels good and right, and exercise, things like that. And so if you have any feedback on that notion, and as it relates to trying to be fully present, and sometimes thinking of wanting to address that immediately.
Yeah. So the question, though, for those virtual maybe didn't hear it, what are my thoughts on guilt and around kind of your view towards yourself, not meditating as regularly as you think you should, not exercising, taking care of yourself physically, and how that's all related to staying present. I'll start with your comment at the end. You can presently be aware of the fact that you're not meditating. Let's not confuse these two. Being present doesn't mean, you could be robbing a bank presently, right? Lakshi Somo, Tibetan Buddhist nun, great teacher, she used to always say that, she's not a big fan of the mindfulness movement in the West. She's a big fan of Buddhist practice, and which includes mindfulness. And she would say, as a very traditional Buddhist nun, that you could mindfully rob a bank, you could mindfully murder somebody. Mindfulness without moral, ethical conduct and behavior is not the path. So first and foremost, you could be mindful of your inability to take care of yourself physically. You could be mindful of the fact that you're eating like crap. You could be mindful of the fact that you're not meditating. So you can mindfully do all those things. So let's separate the first part of what you said from mindfulness. Let's not confuse those. Does that make sense so far? Yeah. Second part is, give yourself a break. You're just human, right? The fact that you're aware that you want to be meditating more, or you wouldn't be asking that question, is great. I'm not a fan of looking at progress with Buddhist practice, but for lack of better words, that's progress. How long have you been at this practice? Okay, so what, like 5 years? And you haven't figured this out by now yet?
I know it's a practice, but I get distracted by waking up to just, damn, this is good for me. I gotta get in here more often.
So then get in here more often. There's no shortcut to this stuff. Again, we're talking about separate things. First off, you've been at this 5 years. So 6 years ago, you never would have had the thought, man, I should meditate more, right? 6 years ago, would you ever have thought that? 7 years ago, 10 years ago? No. It's only been 5 years. And how old are you?
I'm over 50.
Okay. So, as I always say, for me, if I was an idiot for 30 years of my life, it's going to take longer than 20 minutes to, get on a healthier path. You're over 50, you've been at this 5 years, give yourself a break. Give it another 5 years. Be proud of the fact that 5 years into this, you realize this is really important to you. You realize that this stuff is good for you. Your mind and your heart tell you you need this. That's phenomenal. Eventually that will continue, that you'll cultivate that. We call planting seeds. You've planted seeds deeply that say this is really important to you. The challenge is we grow up in these cultures and these societies where we're told we're never good enough. And so for whatever reason, which, we don't have enough time to get into tonight, you think you're not good enough at this, or that you're failing, or you're not doing it right, or that you need to do it more.
Well, maybe the word guilt in my mind could be swapped out for awareness. Reminding myself of what my values are.
Yes. And
It's been a while and I forgot.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to spin what you're saying into a very beautiful thing. You recognize that this practice is important in your life and you need to do it more. So you know what you need to do? Do it more. But when you don't feel guilt or shame or frustration or just whatever words you want to put in there. You're saying you're aware of the fact that you need to do this more. Great. Do it more. That's the only way. And when you don't for 3-4 days, 3-4 weeks, 3-4 months, you're not failing. You're just being aware of the fact that you're, missing out on taking care of yourself. So keep at it. Keep being aware. And you'll practice more. Don't complicate it, 5 minutes of meditation a day, 5 minutes of reading something a day. 1 halfway decent meal. I'm just looking at things that you said. Don't complicate it. Like you said, if 45 years you've been unhealthy, 5 years you're making a dent. You're cutting into it. Not to assume you've been unhealthy for 45 years, but maybe 43. Yeah, people are so hard on themselves. They're just human. We're all unenlightened, ignorant fools most of our time. And we're trying to be decent people. Like, that's not easy. So give yourself a break. Yeah. Standards we've set are just ridiculous. What else?
Jeff?
Yeah.
What about if you've implemented certain things in your life and you believe it would be helpful for others to take a similar path? And either they're resistant or they...
I'm going to stop you right there. I mean, as much as we'd all love to hear you say, what they're resistant to,
Yeah.
right? This is such a common question, especially around the holiday time, right? Why is it, like I said this the other day, right? I'll come back to your question, but I just want to point this out. Like, some love the holidays. Some, the holidays can be a wonderful, beautiful time. They're also a really difficult, painful time for, this is just a general statement, not about you. Wonderful for some, miserable for others, exciting and joyful, and very painful and traumatic for others. So there's this wide range of emotions that go on during holiday time. Addiction is up, relapse, things like that. This is crazy times, these kind of 6-7 weeks. But for those who do gather for the holidays and have this stuff, and again, this is for everybody. Someone asked us something like this on Saturday. It's like, if you're only together one time a year, and it's supposed to be a joyful time, don't talk about any of this stuff. If you come together once a year, don't use that as an opportunity to try to convince somebody that they need to do the shit that you're doing. Once a year. If you're at Thanksgiving dinner, which already passed, but as an example, just eat the turkey that's already been slaughtered. You don't need to convince people why they, just enjoy the presence of people. Especially around the holiday time, I'm just saying this, and then I'll respond more specifically. Like, the holidays are already hard enough for various reasons, no matter how wonderful they are, right? Let them be. Let the people be. Breathe. Don't use that at the time to push your religious, political, spiritual views. Nobody cares. Right? And they're all like, shit, they're going to show up and they're going to push their thing. You know how much time I've spent talking about meditation and Buddhist practice at the holidays for the last 20 years? Zero. Secondly, to the question of what about, how do you convince? The best way, honestly, is you practice for you. If you are kinder, gentler, happier, more patient, more kind, more loving, more forgiving, whatever it is, and people see that, maybe they'll ask, hey, what's wrong with you? What's going on? How come you're so nice all of a sudden, right? If you go up to people and say, hey, you really need this, what are you actually telling them?
What you're doing is...
Yeah. Nobody wants to hear that. There would have been a time in our lives where, most likely, that if somebody came to us and said, you need to meditate, you need to explore Buddhism, you need to whatever, we would have thrown something at them. Now all of a sudden, you're into it and you're like, you really need this. They need you to stop talking. Right? And the truth is, that's all serious too, but the truth is, what you're doing is coming from a beautiful place. Right? We all know and love people that we see who are suffering. And many of them, especially if it's family or close friends or whatever it is, that we know where their suffering is coming from, and we can maybe relate to it on a certain level, and we can look at our journey, our spiritual path, and say, hey, I was suffering with something similar, and this is what I did. And it helped me. And so we want to help them. People, loved ones, dealing with addiction, things like that. You see people suffering, you want to help them. People have to help themselves. And so it's kind of like you can kind of tease it out there a little bit, maybe in passing, I went to a meditation last week. You just leave it alone. You got to wait for them to, Buddhists aren't out there with signs up that say, come join us, You like the sign we have out there?
I can see it.
There isn't one. There's still a cross on top here. So we're just trying to confuse everybody. Which means if they end up here, they want to be here. That's the kind of the Buddhist approach. But again, I truly feel you. This question I've heard for forever. How do I get loved ones to be happy? Is really what it comes down to. And it's tough because they're not all ready to hear it or do it. You know, say a couple things, plant the seeds, but you'll know, especially with someone you know. You start talking about it and you're like, hey, as soon as you say to somebody, you should, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, good luck. And save it for like March, you know, not November, December. Like if you're going to ruin something, just ruin like a dinner in March. You know? Like why ruin the whole holiday thing? So, yeah. What else? Yeah.
I have a question or an opportunity. I'm also in healthcare. And for the last 40 years, I've been on call. And this is the last week of my call. And it's been brutal call. You know, nights, weekends, taking me away from family emergencies, etc. And I've been wondering what to do with my beeper, this beeper. My first thought was to smash it. Just have a hammer party and just have a go at it. Another was to throw it in the pool.
Yeah.
Then I started thinking, well, maybe a more peaceful thing would be to put it on a funeral pyre and float it down the river. And then my husband said, you can't do anything with that beeper. It's not your property. You have to give it back. But if I give it back, they're going to give it to someone else to torture. So that doesn't seem like the right thing to do. I thought about selling it on eBay because it's probably from the 1980s. And I even had to put it on a vibrator and hold it while I was meditating. So I really resent this beat.
Yeah.
And I wonder what I should do.
Well, you definitely made the top 10 list of questions I've ever been asked. That's one I'll probably never be asked again. You know, a couple things. One, other than wanting to make the jokes of the first beeper I got in 1988, going to Circuit City, my two buddies on the back of a scooter skipping class, going to Circuit City, buying a beeper. I haven't even heard the word beeper in God knows how many years. But here's the thing. So the Buddhist teachings around non-attachment are really important. Very often when people hear the word non-attachment, they think that like you don't care, that it's about non-loving, non-caring. Non-attachment is really absolutely loving, but not attaching to the person, place, or thing, right? Meaning you understand everything has its own journey. And with family members, children, parents, loved ones, you love them. And you're not attached to them. It doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you're cutting them off. You're not detached. You're understanding that they have their own journey. Right? That beeper has its own journey. And for 40 years, your association, based on the way you described it, at this stage, after 40 years, and this being your last week, and it being a really tough time for you right now with all of that, for 40 years, that beeper has, similar question to earlier, that beeper has probably saved a lot of people's lives, or at least a lot of pain and suffering. So the problem isn't the beeper. You're talking about burying or sailing off, whatever your ideas are, right? Which is fun and cute. But the reality is, it's your attachments, your story. That thing has supported you for 40 years. That thing has made the lives of family members better because you've been able to be on call and go help people. What a wonderful thing. Why would you ever want to destroy that? Shift your view, your attachment to the story of like this thing is, taking up so much of my time. It has. Somebody asked my master once, do you ever feel like you're being taken advantage of because of your kindness? And he laughed and he said, yes, absolutely. And that's why I'm here. The Bodhisattva practice is no gift, no giver, no receiver. That you give without expecting anything in return. So you both, and what you both have shared, you've been living, as have many in this room, you've been living that, And so, the humor of the beeper is funny. I don't really give a shit what you do with it. But the reality is it's your association to it, the construct that you have built around that I think as you finish your last week and move on, that hopefully you can look back and think, well, what an incredible experience that was. To live at a time where I could have this gadget in my hand that beeped and told me I needed to go help someone. You know? How fascinating. How lucky are people to have had you for that. So thank you. Yeah. I'm resisting more beeper jokes that are What else? Yeah.
So this says intro.
Yeah.
How do we get more? Is there, I'm sorry, I am in this structured,
Yes.
I'm a highly structured environment.
I'm sorry.
This, and this.
Yeah.
What's the
There is no next.
class?
No. No, this is it. What's your name? What's your name? Say again?
Starla.
Starla. I just want to be very clear when I talk to Starla. I've been leading this intro class for probably 15 years, twice a week. And I will lead it if I'm alive for the next 15 years. The exact same thing over and over and over again. Yet every single time it is absolutely, completely different. Looking at the basic Buddhist teachings of the Four Noble Truths, the first thing the Buddha taught, life. Are you familiar with Buddhism at all? Yeah. So life is filled with suffering. The second is the cause. The third is the ending. Nirvana, liberation from suffering. And the fourth is the path, the Eightfold Path. Correct views, thought, speech, action, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, concentration. Right? You got the 6 Paramitas, generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, wisdom. You have the causes of our suffering being greed, anger, ignorance, and the practice of generosity, compassion, and wisdom. Every single one of those things I've just spoken about for the last 57 minutes. If you want that in some formal document, Google it.
I've got books all over the
Right,
place.
I know.
Trust me.
I get it. Are you an academic or a scholar or a PhD or all the above?
Anal retentive.
Yeah.
Orchid
So,
healthcare.
for people, take this with all the love and compassion in the world. For people like you, this practice is necessary because very often people want, well, this isn't enough. I've had people say to me, I couldn't even tell you how many times over the years, well, I've learned the Four Noble Truths. What's next? If you think that something is next after the Four Noble Truths, then you have not learned the Four Noble Truths. And I cannot stress the importance of that. In Buddhist practice, the heart of Buddhist teachings, there is no next. It doesn't exist. If you want to learn Buddhism, scholarly, and go through like chapters and take a course, at a university, you can go through that stuff. But then you have to apply that to your life, and that doesn't translate so well. You can memorize all types of things in Buddhism. Like you said, you've got all the books. You probably don't need to read one more thing. In fact, for 2,500 years, scholars and great Buddhist teachers will tell you that all of the Buddhist teachings that he taught for 45 or for 35 years before he died are in the Four Noble Truths. That he taught them 84,000 different ways. A metaphor for there being 84,000 different types of people. I call this Intro to Buddhism because there is no advanced. Can you go one day and be kind to every person, including yourself, and have nothing but kind thoughts, kind words, and kind actions? One day, without locking yourself in the closet. And even then, you'd have harmful thoughts about why the hell did I lock myself in the closet? So I've been at this practice a long time. I'm also a Zen practitioner that says every moment you are starting over again. And that is a beautiful thing. But for those who think that there's what's next and where do I go now, you're going to end up searching forever. And you will die thinking that there's something you were supposed to find. There is nothing to find.
With your master, what did that look like?
This. This. Yeah. 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 Oh, and I get it. Like I said, for some people, this doesn't seem enough. And you can tell how much I care about that, Because people they think, well, there's got to be more. Well, if you were in a robe and from some other culture, and there were other Buddhisty things, then that might mean it's more. I've been in all those things. What's more is, how do you treat your family? What's more is, how do you treat your friends? What's more is, how do you treat your colleagues? What's more is, how do you treat the strangers, that cut you off after a long day of work? What's more is, how much food do you waste? What's more is, how many clothes do you consume thinking that the next shirt you buy is going to make you look better? What's more is recognizing how much we waste. That's what's next. And I always kind of share with Vicky, who's been around us probably 13, 14 years ago. She said something to the effect of, I've been listening to Jeff say the same thing for years, and I still can't do it. So, the beauty of a place like the Dharma Bum Temple is we have different unenlightened, ignorant folks leading every night. So if this approach and this style doesn't resonate with you, which, trust me, I know my personality, I'm not for everybody. Some love me, some hate me. I've seen both, right? My whole life. And so each person who leads has a different approach, different style. San Diego has, within 10, 20 miles here, there's, I'm not even joking, probably 50 Buddhist temples from all different cultures. And the bowing and the chanting and the robes and the other languages and all what looks like formal ritual practice. Ultimately, what they're doing is just saying it in another language, so you think it's something like esoteric and out there. They're just reading the sutras that most people won't even read because they want it broken down by Pema Chodron or the Dalai Lama. There's a facade of Buddhism that gets very attractive to Western people. Like that you have to go to a mountaintop monastery somewhere and put on a robe and shave your head, and that means you're doing more Buddhist stuff. More Buddhist stuff is be nice to strangers and yourself. Those are the advanced teachings. Truly, that's what I have learned. Yeah. So, nice to meet you. All right, I think I'm going to close on that unless anyone else. Yeah.
I have a quick one.
Yeah.
Well, I have a few, but I'll stick with the quick
Yeah.
one. What's the second night you do an introduction of?
Well, I do this Tuesday nights, Saturday mornings, and then I do the Heart Sutra class on Sunday. It's more of a practice than a class, really, on Sundays at 1 o'clock. Yeah. And that I confuse you even more than I do here. Here I actually respond to questions relatively directly. There I just try to constantly confuse you.
Sweet.
Yeah.
What time is that?
That's Sunday 1 o'clock. Yeah. So we'll join palms. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace. May all be free from suffering. Before y'all head out, our Dharma Bum host Molly has a few announcements. While she's coming up here, we have on New Year's our 19th annual Dharma Bum Temple New Year's Eve celebration. Everyone's welcome. 7 o'clock we do a vegetarian potluck. 9 o'clock I do a history of the Dharma Bum Temple. And 11:30 we all pile in here and do a silent meditation into midnight. So the whole night's not silent, just the last 20, 30 minutes. So you're welcome to come at 7. Some are home by 9 o'clock and asleep. Some come at 9. Some come at 11:30 just for meditation. So you're all welcome for that.
Hi everyone. We opened the Dharma Bum Temple 18 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those who lead are not nuns, monks, gurus, masters, or teachers, and are not looking for students. They're simply practitioners sharing their interpretation of the practice. Every night we have different classes led by different people from various Buddhist traditions. We have a recovery sangha that meets several times a week for anyone with addiction, and our food redistribution program is every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. We have classes and programs every day, and everything we offer here is always free. The full schedule is on our website and also posted in the entryway above the shoe rack. We have a lending library, and if you see a book you like, feel free to borrow it and then bring it back whenever you're done. Please straighten your seat or cushion before you head out. Thank you for being here. We wish you all